Thank you for logging in. Today I'm going to look at expanding triple brackets. But before we go on to that, it's always a good idea just to refresh ourselves and just look at expanding single brackets. So if we look at the first one, it's 2 lots of x, so that's going to be 2x, 2 lots of 4, so that's going to be 8. If we go on to the next one, 4 lots of 5, which is 20, 4 lots of 2, which is 8, and don't forget it's 8x, but remember there's a negative sign there, so it's 20 take away minus 8x, sorry. Now we've got to be really careful here because we've got a negative 3, so 3 lots of 4 is 12, so it is 12x, but we mustn't forget the minus, so it's minus 12x, and then we've got 3 times 3, which is 9. Now be careful, a negative times a negative is a positive, so it's 12x, sorry, negative 12x plus 9. The next one, 3 times 2 is 6, but it's a negative 6x, so negative 6x, and a negative times a negative is a positive, and 3 times 3 is 9, and don't forget x times x is x squared. So that just gives us a basic understanding, and obviously this is work that you should have covered before anyway. Okay, moving on. What I have done on the right hand side, just as a reminder, if you have like signs, the answer is always positive. So when you multiply a positive by a positive, negative by a negative, and if we multiply two different signs, what we get is a negative. So just remind you again, positive times negative is negative, and negative times positive is negative. So we can now go on to answering these three questions. So x times x is x squared, x times 3 is 3x, 1 times x is 1x, and 1 times 3 is 3. Now remember, you must always tidy this up. So the final answer is x squared plus 4x plus 3. Now your teachers at school may actually do this with you, that if you notice that you get the number 4 by adding 1 and 3, and you get the number 3 here by multiplying 1 and 3. So when we look at expanding two brackets and we get a quadratic function, what you'll find is this is the sum of the roots. So in this case it's the 1 plus the 3, and this is the product. Okay, but this is really more A level, but just to give you an insight. Okay, the next one, x times x is x squared, x times 3 is 3x, negative 4 times x is negative 4x, 4 times 3 is 12, but be careful, you have a negative and a positive, so it's negative. Yep. So we just need to tidy this up. So our final answer will be x squared minus x minus 12. If we apply what I told you in the top, what you'll find is that the answer should be x squared, and if I add the negative 5 and the negative 3, that should give me a negative 8x, and if I multiply 5 and 3, that gives me a 15, and it should be a positive 15. But we'll expand and we'll see what we get. Okay, so x times x is x squared, x times 3 is negative 3x, and negative 5 times x is negative 5x, and negative 5, negative 3 times together is positive 15. And of course, we need to tidy that up, so that will give us x squared minus 8x plus 15. So again, that's just a recap. Here what we've got is we've got a number in front of the x, which is bigger than 1, because up to now we just have the number 1. So nothing changes really, you just slowly expand the brackets and the answer will pop out. So here we have 2 times 3, so that's going to be 6x squared. 2 times 2 is going to be negative 4x. Here we're going to have 12x, and 4 times 2 we're going to have negative 8. So we just tidy that up. That's going to give us 6x squared plus 8x minus 8. And you'll notice on the second one I have the x's on the right hand side, but it makes no difference to us, we just follow the rules. So it's going to be 4 times 2, which is going to be 8, 4 times 2x is going to be plus 8x. 3x times 2 is going to, and it's a minus 3x, so it's going to be minus 6x, and 3x times 2x is going to be 6x, 6x squared, but be careful, it's a negative times a positive, so it's going to be a negative. We're just going to tidy that up, so that's going to be 8, and then it's going to be plus 2x, and it's going to be minus 6x squared. You can leave that as it is, but in mathematics what we tend to do is these are called polynomials, by the way, and again the further you go on to your GCSE, and especially when you start to do A level, that'll become more sort of common to you. And what we tend to do is we'll take the highest power first. So the highest power is at x squared, so that becomes minus 6x squared, then it's your plus 2x, and then it's your plus 8. This is just really showing off now. You can make that a little bit prettier by putting the negative sign outside and putting brackets there, and then writing 6x squared minus 2x minus 8. And if you multiply that bracket out, and of course you have the one at the front, you'll actually get the expression here. But that's just a bit of showing off. But that answer is fine. You don't need to do anything more than that. Okay, squaring brackets. The first one, and I'll just break my screen into 3, this is x plus 3 and x plus 3. And if you multiply through, that's x squared, that is 3x, and that is 9. Tidying that up, that's going to be x squared plus 6x plus 9. Now what I would really like you to do is to be able to look at the green and then look at the yellow, and then realize that what's actually happened is you've squared the x, which is x squared, you've multiplied the x and the 3 together to get 3x, then you've doubled it to give you 6x, and then you multiply the 3 by itself to get 9. And if I do that in the second one, you'll find that it's very easy to get the answer. So it's going to be, if I take x and I square it, I get x squared. If I take the negative 5 and I square it, I get plus 25. If I multiply the x and the 5 together, I get negative 5x. And if I double it, I get negative 10x. That's what's really happening, but this is how you do it properly. So it's going to be x minus 5, x minus 5. So that's going to be x squared minus 5x minus 5x plus 25. Putting everything together, that is x squared minus 10x plus 25. Now we can do that third one quite easily just by looking at it, but because the x is on the far right hand side, what I'll do is I'll just write it out fully, and then what we can do is we can just take our time and just make sure that we've got everything written out. So it's 4 minus 2x, 4 minus 2x. And I would of course say to you that for exam purposes and obviously sharing with your teacher that you fully understand, always show every single step. It's what we call method marks, and you do get method marks. So 4 times 4 is your 16, 4 times 2 is your negative 8x, 2x times 4 is your negative 8x, and 2x times 2 is 4x squared, but remember 2 negatives and is a positive. So if I now tidy this up, that's going to be 16, that's going to be 16x, and that's going to be 4x squared. However, you already knew that really, because 4 squared is 16, 4 times 2 is 8, negative 8x doubled is your negative 16x, and 2x squared is 4x, but a negative times a negative is a positive. And this is something that I quite often share with sort of years 7 and 8, and they're able to just do this quite quickly. Okay, so difference of two squares. This is really important. I would imagine that most of you do know this, but there's no harm in just recapping quickly. Okay, so a times a is a squared, a times b is negative ab, b times a is positive ab, and b times b is negative b squared. Now something very unusual happens here. We're going to lose this bit here. Okay, they cancel each other out. So our final answer is going to be a squared minus b squared. And if we use that logic for the second question, what you'll find is you're able to answer it just by looking at it. So if you square y, it's going to be y squared. The middle term is just going to disappear. 7 times 7 is 49. However, a positive times a negative is a negative. But what's actually happening is y times y is y squared. Then it's going to be negative 7y, positive 7y, and then negative 49. And then, of course, tidying that up, we get our answer y squared, take away 49. What I've done here is this is the difference of two squares, and it's quite easy, although some of these look complicated, that you can quite easily just write the answer down. So let's go for it then. If you take r squared, the square root of r squared is r, so we'll put an r there and an r there. The square root of 100 is 10, so we put a 10 there and a 10 there. The order doesn't matter. In other words, I could have r minus 10 and r plus 10, and I can put my brackets around that. That doesn't matter. Both of those answers are the same, yeah? So if I go bottom left, square root of 25 is 5, so 5 and 5. Square root of v squared is a v. And you can see that you're answering these quite quickly. So square root of 49 is 7, so put a 7 there, 7 there. Square root of x squared is x, so put an x there, x there. Square root of 25 is 5, 5 there, 5 there. Square root of y squared is y. And you can see that although it looked a bit complicated, to be honest with you, it isn't. Yeah. So I'm just going to get this ready so I can put my fractions in. So very simply, square root of 9 is 3. Square root of y squared is y. So I'll repeat that, 3 and a y. Square root of 25 is 5. Square root of x squared is x. Now this, you may think, well, you don't know the square root of 7. Well, you don't, but you do know that you write it down as square root of 7. That's all you need to do. Okay, so repeat that. So it's 5x and it's square root of 7. And that bottom right question does look quite difficult, but to be honest with you, as you can see, it is really quite straightforward. Okay, we're ready to look at expanding brackets. I would encourage you to leave x plus 1 to do that last, and there's a reason for that, because that's one of the easiest multiplications to do. So I'm going to focus on just getting that right. So that's going to be x plus 2 times by x plus 3, and of course you know that x times x is x squared. That's going to be plus 3x and plus 2x, so it's going to be plus 3x plus 2x, and 2 times 3 is 6. Tidying that up, that's going to be x squared plus 5x plus 6. Now we need to multiply that by the x plus 1, so we can rewrite this as it's going to be x plus 1 times by x squared plus 5x plus 6. I would encourage you to use just make that to yellow. I would encourage you to use this technique, which I'm going to share with you now, because you'll find the answer just falls out. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the green bracket by x. Now if I multiply by x, what's actually going to happen is each of the powers is going to increase. So that's just simply going to be x cubed, that's going to be 5x squared, and that's going to be 6x. Now when I'm going to multiply by 1, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write it in the line underneath. So 1 times x squared just becomes x squared, 1 times 5x just becomes 5x, and 1 times 6 just becomes plus 6. Now the beauty of this method is the answer just falls out. It's a bit like doing units, tens and hundreds addition in columns. So you'll start off the x cubed. Of course there is a 1 there, so that's going to be 6x squared, that's going to be 11x, and that's going to be plus 6. So in a nutshell, that's how you do expanding triple brackets. And obviously I've got a couple of questions here where they'll get harder and harder. So we'll go on to the next one. We'll leave the x plus 1 till last, so we'll just do the second and third brackets. So that's going to be 2x plus 1, and that's going to be 3x plus 4. And I would encourage you just to pause the video, to be honest with you, have a go, and then just follow exactly what I'm doing. So I'll just pause for a minute. Well, that's less than a minute really, and I'll carry on now. So 2x times 3x, that'll be 6x squared. 2x times 4 is 8x. 1 times 3 is 3x, and 1 times 4 is 4. Tidying that up, that gives me 6x squared plus 11x plus 4. So I'm now going to set up the multiplication. So it's the x plus 1, and I'm going to multiply by the 6x squared plus 11x plus 4. Now, if you're going to multiply by x, it just means each of the powers increases, so I'll just line it up. So that'll be 6x cubed, 11x squared plus 4x. And you can see that there's been nothing really tremendous that I've done there, it's just that's really quite systematic. Now if you're going to multiply by 1, it means it's going to be 6x squared, so we'll line that up with the 11, so that's going to be 6x squared. That's going to be 11x, and that's going to be plus 4. And we're now going to tidy that up, and that's going to be 6x cubed plus 17x squared plus 15x plus 4. And that's correct. Okay. The questions here are a little bit different in that I've got quite a few negative signs on the first one. So what we'll do with that one is we'll leave the x minus 1 till last, and we'll just focus on this bit here. So that's going to be, just to speed it up a bit, I'll leave that as it is. And if I expand the second one, the second and third bracket, sorry, it's going to be x times x, which is x squared. That's going to be minus 3x minus 2x, so that's going to be minus 5x. And 2 times 3, be careful, it is a 6, but of course it's a positive 6. So now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by x, so that means all the powers are going to increase. So that will be x cubed, that's going to be minus 5x squared plus 6x. Now be really careful here, you are multiplying by 1, but it's a negative 1. So a negative 1 times x squared is going to be a negative 1x squared. A negative times negative is going to be positive, so that's going to be positive 5x. A negative times positive is going to be negative, so it's going to be negative 6. And tidying all of this up together will give you a x cubed, and that's going to be negative 6x squared. That's going to be positive 11x, and that's going to be negative 6. What I would like you to do is to start becoming a bit sort of being able to predict really, and I'll show you what I mean by that. X times x times x is your x cubed. Your negative 1 times your negative 2 is a positive 2. However, a positive 2 times a negative 3 is going to be your negative 6. And there's a lot you can do to actually check your answer just by the method I've just shown you, and it just kind of helps you to make sure that you got the right answer. Okay, this question here, and what I'll do here is I'll leave the x plus 1 till last, and I'll just focus on the first and the second bracket. So x plus 1, and that's going to be multiplied by 2x times by 2x, sorry, 2x times by x is going to be 2x squared, and that's going to be 2x times by 4 is going to be negative 8x, that's going to be plus x, and the last bit's going to be negative 4. So just tidying this up, it's going to be x plus 1, and that's going to be 2x squared minus 7x, and it's going to be minus 4. So tidying this up now, multiplying by x just means all the powers increase, so it's 2x cubed minus 7x squared minus 4x. It is a positive one, so I can just repeat everything that I already have. So it's going to be 2x squared, so I'll line that up. That's going to be minus 7x, and that's going to be minus 4. So tidying all of this up gives me 2x cubed. Be careful, it's minus 7x plus 2x, so minus 7x squared plus 2x squared. So that's going to be minus 5x squared. Minus 4 minus 7 is going to be your minus 11x, and that's going to be take away 4. Right, I think we're ready now to do some harder ones. You've noticed this before. Obviously what I've got there is I'm squaring the brackets, so I'll do the x plus 4 last. So this will be 2x minus 3 times by 2x minus 3. In the exam, I would encourage you to write this out fully. You may already know that the answer is going to be 2x, all squared is going to be 4x squared. The negative 3 squared is going to be your 9. 2x times by 3 is your minus 6x, double is going to be minus 12x, but remember, show all your workings out. So this is how you do it properly. So that's going to be 4x squared. That's going to be your minus 6x, and that's going to be your plus 9. Tidying this up, 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. And you can probably now see what I was trying to say when I was rambling there, that this bit here, 2x brackets squared is your 4x, negative 3 squared is your 9, and your 2x times by 3 is your minus 6x, but doubled is your minus 12x, so it's that bit there. Okay, so let's finish this off then. So it's going to be x plus 4, and we're going to multiply that by 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. So we're going to increase the powers by x, so that's going to be just by 1 power of x, so that's going to be 4x cubed minus 12x squared plus 9x. Going to multiply by 4, so that's going to be 4 4s are 16, so that's going to be 16x squared. 4 times 12 is negative 48x, and 4 times 9, if I remember, is 36. And if I tidy this up, that'll be 4x cubed, that's going to be plus 4x squared, and that's 9x take away 48, and that is your negative 39x, and that's going to be plus 36. So that's that question there. What I have done is I've got 2 exam questions. To be honest with you, this one's quite straightforward really, because although it's going to be a cubic, it's just really expanding 2 brackets. That's kind of already been done for us. So what we can do here is I would be inclined to just rewrite this as 2y minus 3, and that's going to be y squared minus 5y plus 2, and we show the examiner every step. So 2y y times that will be 2y cubed. 2y times 5y, sorry, 2y times by 5y will be negative 10y squared, and 2y times by 2 will be your plus 4y. Now we're going to multiply the second bracket by a negative 3, so that just simply becomes negative 3y squared. A negative and a negative is positive, so that becomes 15y, and negative 3 times 2 becomes your negative 6. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tidy that up, and our final answer will be 2y cubed minus 13y squared plus 19y minus 6. And what we can do is, just to keep things tidy, is where it says answer is just rewrite that. I suppose I could have done that really in one go. Okay, so that's that one. And I have one more question here. A lot of students will dive into this question and kind of not see that it is actually the difference of two squares. If you look at the first two brackets, you'll notice they're the same. It's just one's positive and one's negative. Now, if you're quite comfortable with this, what you'll be able to do is you'll realize that 2x times 2x is 4x squared, and 5 times 5 is 25, positive times negative. So the first two brackets are really that. But I would always encourage you, write everything down. So the key here is not to use the third bracket first, leave that till last. Okay, so doing this properly, it's 2x plus 5 and 2x minus 5. So expanding this, that will be 4x squared minus 10x plus 10x, and 5 times 5 is 25, and of course it's negative 25, but tidying that up, that does become 4x squared minus 25. So we just need to put that into a bracket, and of course we need to multiply that by 3x plus 7. So again, just showing every step, the answer is 3x times 4x is going to be 12x squared. 3x times by 25 is negative 75x, and 7 times 4 is 28, so it's going to be a positive 28x squared, and 7 times 25, if you don't know that straight away, you'll know that 4 25s are 100, 8 25s are 200, but there's only 7, so we can take one off, so it's 175, and positive times negative is a negative 175. So we just need to tidy that up, and that'll be 12x squared plus 28x squared minus 75x minus 175. I hope that maybe all of this, or maybe some of it, has been useful. Please, I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can either email me or you can contact me on Twitter. If there's anything in particular you would like me to sort of make a podcast on, you only have to ask. Okay, it's lovely spending some time with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.